How do I know the difference between resting and procrastination?
This word procrastination is a word that has other words that are akin to it, like lazy and so on. All words which are actually quite difficult to define, strangely enough. Very difficult to define lazy, like intentionally inactive or slovenly or whatever. I mean, people have great difficulty defining it. So imagine if I was with an expert archer. I myself am an archer. I love the art of archery, and I love teaching it to people. And I imagine if I was with an expert archer, someone who was one of my mentors in my early days of archery, and he puts the arrow onto the bowstring. The target is 50 yards away, and he draws the arrow back carefully on the bowstring, and then he brings the arrow right up to, and the end of the arrow and string right up to his cheek or even close to his ear, and anchors there for a moment as he is carefully taking aim. And I might say to this archer, if I didn't know anything about archery, why are you procrastinating? What's this procrastination? Shoot. It would be an inappropriate thing to say at that moment, because what he's actually doing is in drawing the arrow back on the bowstring and in locking into that anchored position and taking aim, he has built propensity for forward dynamic kinetic action. He's built that propensity. And now he's carefully going to assign all of that potential to a specific target and then only release. Is this procrastination? We couldn't say it was procrastination. Procrastination would mean something else. Now, people very often accuse themselves of procrastinating when in fact what they're doing is building propensity. I found myself over the last 5, coming on 6 decades of public speaking and lecturing on various topics, that if I'm asked, say, to give a talk on a particular subject, fulfillment versus desperation and so on and so forth, that the entire lecture, or if I have to write, the entire writing begins to happen inside my consciousness before I actually pick up the pen or before I lean into the microphone and begin speaking. The whole thing gets written for me. Sometimes people have said to me, you promised that you were going to write this 3-page thing. I don't see you doing any writing, and it's due in half an hour. I say it's writing itself right now while we're talking, because consciousness is building the propensity for it. And when the last moment is there, then at the exact perfect moment, it will all come out. And when it comes out in that way, it comes out brilliantly. Studies have shown that students who are the ones who finish their homework early very often are the ones who do the less brilliant work, because they don't make use of the time pressure as a means to bring together all of their potentials. When we are under pressure, if we have the capacity to make high speed and accurate decisions and stay calm under pressure, then we can use the pressure, the challenge of the moment, as a means to consolidate all of our talents, our skills, our creativity, and to weigh the need of the time at the last moment, weighing the actual need of the time, which might have been different to what it was 6 weeks ago, and then release into speech or action or writing or whatever. And so that allowing ourselves the grace of building that propensity with a climactic release. It's a little bit like the way you see rain clouds building up. The clouds build and build and build, and then they start changing color from white to gray, and then from gray to dark, and then from dark to bluish black. And when they get kind of bluish black and it's still not raining, then suddenly there's a catalyst event, a cathartic event, a thunderclap may be enough, and then a downpour. And that cloudburst is akin to the way that creativity can operate if we allow ourselves to keep a cool head. Then we're not procrastinating. What we're doing is we're allowing propensity to build. And it turns out that for those who know how to harness this, those who practice harnessing it, it is the best way to assure that you get things right, because the moment of release is the moment when the target is exactly in the right spot. The moment of release, you have assessed the most up-to-date need of the time. Because there's a deadline coming, and a deadline is everyone's best friend, right up next to the deadline, one releases, and then the most cogent product of thinking and the most powerful assemblage of creativity is present in that moment. So this is the way nature operates too. Water banks up behind a bunch of sticks and rocks and everything in a stream. And then there's a certain point where a critical mass has been reached. And then there's a tipping point. And when that tipping point happens, catharsis occurs. And there's a flash flood that comes down, and it cleans out the whole riverbed and cleans all the unnecessary boulders and dead sticks from the whole riverbed, and the water flows en masse. So we humans, just like nature, also have this tendency, but in our sometimes grave attempts to make ourselves appear to be better than others, we accuse others of things like procrastination, laziness, and so on and so forth. One of the great studies in creativity regarding procrastination, so-called procrastination, Michelangelo. And Michelangelo famously lay on his back on scaffolding, looking at what was akin to a canvas of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, commissioned by two very important patrons, the Medici family and the Pope, the Vatican, to get something painted there. And famously, he lay on his back for hours and hours and days and days. And if we're to believe the account, sometimes some say weeks, lay there on his back staring at this thing. And when people would say to him things like, when are you going to make a start? His answer would be from way up there on the scaffolding, when I'm finished. And he hadn't painted a stroke. But when time came for him to begin painting, he worked at a furious pace and with amazing productivity. His sculpture was also done in that way. He would look at a block of marble and consider it and walk away, and look at it again and walk away and consider it. And then once he began sculpting, he would take a hammer that was anywhere between 8 pounds and 10 pounds in weight, very heavy, and then begin roughing out the sculpture in a great hurry and with making feverish blows. And when people would say to him, you haven't taken a break for many, many hours, what are you doing? He'd say, I'm liberating the captives in the stone. They're captives in the stone, I'm liberating them. I have to hurry. So, these kinds of lessons, those of us who aspire to great creativity, we need to learn how to harness propensity building and not feel shamed by other people and their opinions about it. We need to be more solid in ourselves and allow our creative expression to take its time. And when the moment's right, we release the bowstring. Jai Gurudev.